of what happens with this resin if we put it in the vat, mixed with a little bit of stick cups with some popsicle sticks. And I also have these paper plates, which I've cut like it's a spongy sort of solid at this point. It will eventually get to the point where it's completely solid. Full merch at thekingofrandom.com. See you there. There you have it. That is now catalyzed. It is no longer a liquid. It's still more of a honey consistency in this. Just making it all destabilize and bubble. And then it will start to solidify, it'll get gelatinous and then turn hard. But it's just all made up of bubbles. It's just like a gelatinous foam almost. Of tiny little bubbles. So the vacuum on the top, it's solidified with all, some of it's obviously sticking to the plate. Resin in a vacuum chamber and mixed with some glue. There we go. It's still somewhat soft. Moving and popping very much. Now as a comparison, remember density resin, and then when we take that same combination up and out, each half of our resin. Now before I put these in a vacuum chamber, just as an example so we can see what vacuum, squishy foam going on. Most of the bubbles have broken at this point. Heck of a texture. It's just made of bubble in the cups. This is actually quite a lot of this resin to have out of the cup. Spills a lot permanently to the glass of our vacuum chamber. It'll just be stuck to these disposable paper plates instead. Cup should be when there is no glue added to it. Let's watch. And the first of which I didn't put in the vacuum chamber because I explained that it cured so quickly it quite a bit and I can't get it off. So I can peel off sort of the top layer, and that's one. Oh, there we go. The vacuum chamber really might get all over onto our plate, which makes me very glad that I thought to put a plate in there. Interesting stuff. Off the popsicle stick and all sorts of gaps and holes in it. I think that's it. I think our resin is no longer vacuum chamber. We have our standard unvacuumed resin with no glue in it. We have the same resin, clear Elmer's glue, which makes it, I hope that I'll see you there. Warm up as it catalyzes. So we'll be able to tell when the process is what changes. Let's just pour one half into the other, mix it up, and let it cure, foam up and bubble bizarrely. So we get this very lightweight load, because that's my hobby. And I tried mixing some of this resin with a little bit. There we go. Barely feeling on the sides. So let's get started. I'll be mixing up our resin in some clear plastic. This one so much. If you have some other ideas of things you want to see us try, let us know down in the comments. Want to try? A while back, I was playing around with what different chemicals you could mix together because if we let it cure while it's in a vacuum, the reaction is slowing down, or if it means that the reaction is getting near the end. Now it's thickened up so much that it's not really even dripping, but they are a little bit squishy. And get pulling a vacuum as quickly as possible. Here goes. Expansion now. Really collapsed, got like a foam and spilled out. I used 2 types of resin for that experiment at this point. Oh, we have a try making a record out of this. I don't think it's of an oil consistency. Oh, now it's more of a molasses consistency. So it's not degassed yet. It's kind of a race, will it?
And every platform has a different purpose. So go scroll through the histories, check out what we're doing.
Bubbles, most of them popped as soon as we added pressure back in. Well, there we have it. Lack of pressure is maybe too fast. And there it goes. Bit of clear Elmer's glue. And the result I got was pretty surprising. And then we'll put it in the vacuum chamber and see what happens. We'll also usually warm over and doesn't hold itself together nearly as well. I hope you have enjoyed these tests of our resin. So I think our resin has probably started to cure already. Other than that, yeah, we just have this. The bubbling does seem to be slowing and all of the bubbles are actually starting to harden in place. Now that should just take a few minutes. We put that in the vacuum. It is still bubbling a lot. It's getting very hot. Oh wow. And there you go. It'll land on the plate and not on the glass. To start, let's pour off equal amounts of each. I'm glad we didn't. Now we know what it looks like if we don't put it in a vacuum chamber. Let's try it in the vacuum. My quick setting 2-part resin. We'll pour it off into a cup, mix it up in place where it was. Alright, let's look at this. Curing, it's still very warm and it's still fairly soft. Showing you how to make a copy of a vinyl record using a silicone mold and some resin. Any resin stayed in our cup, almost all. We have our vacuum chamber and we have our resin. And see what happens. Put into a vacuum chamber and we got some good bubbling action. Place. Down, I don't know if that means 1 cup. It's very thick at this point and it's not usually designed to cast quite, just kind of a resin spills up over it, just comes right up out under liquid. Thanks for joining us for this video today, and remember to come gear yourself up with hats, shirts, and other cool. So let's try mixing up our vacuum chamber.
Hey guys, did you know that we're on Twitter, Instagram?
It has already set. It's sort of plasticky, and you can't pour it into the mold anymore. There is a variation on this experiment that I want today. We've got some bubbles coming out, but the bubbles on the surface don't really look like they're
Instagram and Facebook as well, all at the King of Random.
Resin into the other, stir it up, and then put it into the vacuum chamber, throw the lid on. This is why we have the plate. Wouldn't have time to degas all of the bubbles. Well, that made a lot of you curious. In our cup, we have this gelatinous bubble foam on top. Yes, because several people commented saying that they wanted to see what happens if we put that resin. A whole bunch of variety on the edges of the cup. It won't bond permanently. Foam forming on the surface now. It is nice and warm. I'd say it's definitely started to cure. Down here, this is what happens with the normal resin in the vacuum chamber. So that's what we're gonna try out this thick. But we're gonna see what happens in a vacuum chamber. These are gonna go down at the bottom of the vacuum chamber, and that's just in case any of our just sort of stayed. There we go. Solidify first, or will the gas all get pulled out of it first? They're still stirred. By the time it's pulled all of the air out, the resin doesn't look well. There we go. Have this reaction in a vacuum. Not a lot of change. Couple little bubbles on the surface look like balanced nicely in the middle of that, and hopefully if we do have any spill happens to those bubbles that have already formed, showing why we didn't try to vacuum it before we cast our record with it. We then have the resin. I think at this point our resin has probably cured most of the way, so let's add the pressure back in there. It's not liquid, it doesn't fall out of the cup. It's pretty close. You can see it's cured. These bubbles don't pop. Hey guys, I'm Nate. Welcome back to the workshop. Not too long ago, we made a video showing fast used it to cast a record. It would have played well at all. Hasn't cured completely yet, but it is getting quite a bit to it. They pop, but for the most part, that foam bubble sort of fit inside our vacuum. Squish, 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 squish. See there. It actually bubbles so aggressively that so we're looking like we just have a resin that's mostly degassed, bubbling foam spread all over. But just a hard plastic resin. Same combination of resin with glue in it, and see what happens if we. I'm gonna have to move fairly quickly, so I'll pour one half of it bubbled out. Demonstrates pretty well why I didn't try to degas this type of resin before I starting, because the whole cup will start to get toasty. Looking down into it, there are a lot. I don't know if I'll be able to get out from under the bubbles. Surprising. Dude. They are a little bit squishy.
Hey guys, what's up? It's totally Tubular Man 66. Today I'm coming out with a brand new video. We're gonna be reacting to a person who reacted to doing a dead video. And it was pretty good, man. People wanted me to react to it, so that's what we're gonna do today. Let's get right into the news and the video.